Welcome to this online training on how to prepare a budget for a cross-border cooperation project between Kosovo and North Macedonia. As you already are aware, there are several steps needed to prepare a successful cross-border cooperation project. These steps include finding the right partners and working together on the project idea, defining expected results and activities, and assigning the roles and responsibilities of the partners. However, this is not all. There is something else equally important we need to do, and that is carefully plan our project budget. A well-defined budget should be based on the planned activities, realistic and necessary costs, and a sound financial plan. Let's start with the first step, activity-based budgeting. For example, you have been working really hard together with your partners on defining your project idea. But have you really thought about your project budget? If in the project you are 3 partners, can you split the project budget into equal parts? Yes, it could be possible. However, you are not carrying out exactly the same activities in your project, right? Your tasks in the project are probably quite different. For example, you may need to calculate salaries for people working on your project. These are staff costs. You may also need to purchase goods or services, such as equipment for environmental monitoring. If your project involves meetings or events, you may require travel and subsistence costs, such as hotel bookings, airplane tickets, per diem allowances, and more. Your project might involve investments too, such as infrastructure or works and equipment. It is important to understand what types of costs can be covered. Additionally, each program has defined rules for the costs that can be financed. In program terminology, these are called cost eligibility rules. Please remember to check your budget against the cost categories and eligibility rules. Therefore, you need to have a budget planning meeting. Project budgeting goes hand in hand with the development of the project and the establishment of the partnership. Your project budget should reflect the level of involvement of each partner and demonstrate that the proposed budget is sufficient to achieve the expected results. Budget planning is one of the key assessment criteria for your project proposal. If your project is approved, you will need to implement it according to the planned budget. Let's go back to your project. You have developed the intervention logic of your project and planned the activities. Now is the right time to start planning the project budget. If my institution will be the lead partner, should we have a bigger budget than other partner organizations? I'm not sure it's that simple. There are so many activities planned. You previously have to agree on the activities planned, divide between the partners, and the time frame of the implementation of the activities. Some activities can be quite time-consuming and costly. You also need to consider how much time you will spend on project activities and how to calculate the cost of the staff involved. Well, even meeting costs, dissemination materials, and events must be estimated. I guess there is a lot of work to do. So maybe the initial proposal was not the best one. Where should you start? You should go over the planned activities again and do the budgeting homework. During budget planning, do not forget to estimate and justify the costs. The justification of each budget item will help demonstrate the feasibility of your project proposal. When estimating costs, remember that prices and salary levels can vary significantly between countries. This means that the same amount of work in the project could result in different staff costs depending on the partner's country. The same applies to other cost categories. Also, check early on whether your program application form includes flat rates or lump sums for some costs, as your estimates may need to be adjusted accordingly. Depending on the guidelines of each call for proposals, your project will have to commit a certain amount of funds and investments. Other part of the funds needs to be committed to soft and supporting activities. The importance of a realistic budget. Planning a project budget is a complex task. It is important to have enough time to include all necessary costs and make a realistic cost estimate. If your budget is overestimated, it will be disadvantaged during the proposal assessment. On the other hand, if your budget is underestimated and your project is approved, you may struggle to achieve the proposed results with insufficient budget planning funds. Contains so many details. There are so many costs to plan: salaries, meetings, travel, and other interventions. It's always a good decision to consult colleagues and partners with experience in finance. Additionally, it is advised to conduct price research for some of the planned activities. If one of the partners has more experience in budgeting, it is highly suggested to assist other partners in preparing their budget and compiling into the overall project budget. Before finalizing the budget, please make sure to check if all the details are ready. Are all activities and interventions presented in the budget? Has the cost been estimated? Only after you confirmed that all details have been included and the estimation of cost is based on price research. Only then you can finalize your budget. Co-financing and finalizing the budget. Before you go, I want to mention something important. If your project is approved, a large portion of the funding will be provided by the program. However, based on program rules, you will most likely need to co-finance a part of your project budget, usually around 15%. This amount can be increased to a maximum of 40% of the total eligible costs of the action. It is crucial to discuss this with your financial planners and decision makers early in the budget development process to ensure that your organization has the means to provide co-financing. Co-financing can come from different sources: your own budget, other donors. Always carefully check the co-financing rules of the respective program to avoid misunderstandings. After the co-financing is clarified and secured, then the budget is almost ready. You need to make a list of final tasks and must finish everything before the project submission deadline. 1. Check whether the proposed costs align with the eligibility rules of the program. 2. Review cost estimation and justification. 3. Finalize the partner budget. At this point, it looks like your project budget is well developed and justified. But have you considered a financial plan? What do we mean with financial plan? Aren't the budget and financial plan the same thing? A project budget is your estimate of income and expenditure. A financial plan, on the other hand, is the cash flow of your project during implementation. You need to know when the funding will be transferred from the program to your project and when your project expenses will occur. You wouldn't like to run out of money during the implementation of the project. You need and for sure want your project to run smoothly. In terms of project budget, you will have expenditure for the project activities and you will have sources of funding which are program funding, your own contribution, and maybe other source of funding. In terms of financial plan, you will have the timeline for the payment of project expenditure and incoming funding from the program. It is very important to know the payment scheme of the program and understand at what point on time the funds will be transferred from the program to the project. Based on this information, you can plan your activities and also your payment timeline for expenditure related to the project. During the implementation of the project, you will have to submit the reports to the contracting authority, and there might be a gap between the submission of the report and the next payment to the project. The difference between advance payments is usually 12 to 14 months. Final payment to the project can take up to 6 months after the project implementation has ended. Another important note to remember is that your final project budget will be expressed in euro. When your expenses occur in other currency, you will have to convert in euro based on the method indicated in the program document or call for proposal. Final review before submission. When finalizing your budget and financial plan, it's good to once again review the link between the proposed activities and the project budget, just to avoid any last-minute surprises. At this point, you have successfully planned your project budget based on the 1. Project activities, 2. Carefully estimated realistic and necessary costs, and 3. Prepared a sound financial plan. You are now ready to submit your application on time before the deadline of the call for proposals. We hope you've enjoyed this cross-border cooperation online training and wish you a successful project application. Good luck. Remember 5 key points. 1. Base your budget on planned activities. 2. Build a realistic budget. 3. Look carefully the eligibility rules. 4. Do not forget that you will need to co-finance part of the project. 5. Carefully plan the cash flow to avoid cash shortages during implementation.